Good morning, dear students. In this semester, I am taking you analytical principles, that is module number 4. Okay, so let us start with analytical chemistry. What do you mean by analytical chemistry? See, this analytical chemistry means it is a branch of chemistry. Analytical chemistry. It's a branch of chemistry which deals with the separation, identification, and determination of constituents of a given substance. See, suppose you might have done in your plus 2 classes practicals, that is identification of cations and anions, isn't it? In a mixture or in a salt. In a salt means it will be having both anions as well as cations, isn't it? And also you have to identify the anions and the cations present in that particular salt. Say for example, ammonium chloride. There ammonium is the cation and chloride is the anion. So you are given a salt ammonium chloride and you have to identify the anions and the cations present in that particular salt. So here this analytical chemistry, it is that particular branch which will be dealing with the identification of a particular compound or identification of a particular salt. So and also here you are determining you are doing the identification of the anions as well as the cations, and in some cases you will be calculating the weight of a given substance or weight of a particular salt in a given substance, isn't it? Sometimes you have to estimate the weight of HCl given in a particular solution, isn't it? Sometimes you have to estimate the mass of potassium hydroxide or the mass of sodium hydroxide in that particular solution, isn't it? So there also you are determining the quantity of that particular substance, isn't it? There you are determining the quantity of a substance, and at the same time in some cases you are identifying the cations and the anions present in that particular salt. Okay, so in your plus 2 classes you might have done the identification in salt. So in your degree classes you have to identify the anions and cations present in a mixture. See, in a mixture means you will be given a mixture, and in this mixture it will be having two salts, salt 1 and salt 2 mixed together. Okay, in this mixture two salts were mixed together, so that how many anions and cations are there? There will be 2 anions and 2 cations, isn't it? So in that particular mixture, so mixture means it is a mixture of 2 salt, or it will be a combination of 2 salt, and you have to identify 2 anions and 2 cations. So that is what you are going to do in your S3 and S4 classes. You have to do practicals in that identification of the of cations and anions present in a mixture. So this is one type of analytical chemistry or a particular branch of chemistry. There you have to identify the anions and cations, and another one you have to determine the weight, or you have to determine the quantity of the substance present in a particular solution. Okay, so these two are the main components of an analytical chemistry. So analytical chemistry, it deals with the separation, identification and the determination of the constituents of a given substance. And also this analytical chemistry mainly, it will be, we can consider it as 2 branches or 2 types of analysis are going on. The first one, that is the qualitative analysis, and the second one, that is the quantitative analysis. Qualitative and quantitative. And in this qualitative analysis, it means or in this analysis there will be identification of the constituents of a sample. Identification of the constituents of the sample. That means you have to identify the anions and cations present in a particular mixture. Okay, so in qualitative we are identifying the constituents, and in quantitative analysis we are determining the amount of the substance or the amount of the constituents or weight of the constituents or quantity. We are determining the quantity of the constituents. So in one case, it is the identification of the constituents, and in another case, it is determining the quantity of the constituents. Okay. Determining the quantity of the constituents. Okay, so these are the two major parts of this analytical chemistry. So analytical chemistry, it is the branch of chemistry which deals with the separation, identification and determination of the, not determinants, determination of the constituents of a given substance, and mainly classified into two categories, qualitative as well as quantitative analysis. In qualitative, you are identifying the constituents, while in quantitative analysis, you are determining the quantity of the constituents present in that particular substance. Okay. So in this chapter, you have to deal with both these. That is, in the case of qualitative as well as quantitative, you have to have a brief introduction about this qualitative and quantitative. Okay, so let us start with the qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis. So qualitative analysis means, as I had written already, it is the identification of the constituents of the sample. Identification of the constituents of the sample. In a mixture. Identification of the constituents of a sample in a mixture. See, normally while we are identifying, you might have done some of the tests, isn't it, while determining the anions and cations present, isn't it? So you will be doing some reactions. Say for example, you will be determining the presence of CO2, isn't it? Or sometimes in some cases there will be the liberation of carbon dioxide gas, isn't it? So and in some cases, so if it is the liberation of carbon dioxide, we can say that there will be an acid present, isn't it? So in some cases there will be liberation of carbon dioxide or liberation of any gases, isn't it? While we are doing chemical reactions, there will be some liberation of gases, and in some cases there will be the formation of a precipitate. You might have seen the reaction between AgNO3 plus sodium chloride. You will be having AgCl plus NaNO3, isn't it? So here this AgCl, silver, this is silver nitrate, the reaction between silver nitrate and sodium chloride. So you will be getting a white precipitate of silver chloride, isn't it? So in some reactions there will be this precipitation, isn't it? Precipitation will be going on, and in some cases there will be the liberation of gases, and also in some cases there will be a change in color occurs, isn't it? Change in color occurs. So these are some of the characteristics while a reaction is going on, isn't it? That is, while we are identifying the constituents present in a substance, present in a mixture, there will be sometimes the liberation of gases, or there will be a change in color in that particular reaction mixture, or sometimes a formation of precipitate. So these changes means it indicates that there will be some reaction going on, and similar to that particular reaction there will be some products are formed. Some products are formed, and as a result we can come to the conclusion that that particular ion might be present, isn't it? We will be reaching a conclusion, or we will be concluding that there will be that particular, corresponding to that particular reaction, there will be some ions present, isn't it? So these are some of the characteristic features while a reaction is going on. Liberation of gases, a change in color, or else there is a formation of a precipitate. And also in this qualitative analysis, you have to study two major concepts. And the first one you might have studied in your +2 classes itself. The first one, that is the common ion effect. Common ion effect. And the second one, that is the solubility product. Common ion effect and the solubility product. Okay, so you have to go through in detail these two phenomena, that is common ion effect and solubility product. So first one, common ion effect. This is a very important topic. This is a sure question in your university examination. So first of all, we can see what is a common ion effect. Okay. Before that, you have to know what do you mean by a strong electrolyte and a weak electrolyte. Strong electrolyte and a weak electrolyte. What do you mean by a strong electrolyte? Strong electrolyte means in solution, what happens? The ions will be completely dissociated. Okay, in solution, the ions means in a particular salt means it will be having a cationic part and an anionic part. A plus and minus part will be there. So in solution, what happens? This ions will be completely dissociated. Okay, say for example, in the case of a strong electrolyte, I am writing an example. Say HCl. So HCl in water, it will be ionizing as H plus and Cl minus. This HCl, it is a strong acid, or we can say it is a strong electrolyte. Okay, strong acid. So a strong acid means the major characteristic feature is that it will be completely ionized in solution. So this HCl will be completely ionized in water to give H plus and Cl minus. Okay, then what about weak electrolytes? They will not be completely ionized. So strong electrolytes means they will be completely ionized in solution. But in the case of weak electrolytes, only partial ionization takes place. Partial ionization takes place in the case of weak electrolyte. So I am writing an example for a weak electrolyte, say ammonium hydroxide. So ammonium hydroxide, it will be ionizing as NH4 plus OH minus, and it will not be completely ionized in solution. Okay, only a 50% or a 70% will be ionized. Only partial ionization will be taking place in the case of ammonium hydroxide. Hence, we can call it as a weak electrolyte. Okay, so that is the difference between a strong electrolyte and a weak electrolyte. So here in this phenomenon of common ion effect, suppose I am representing a strong electrolyte as AC. Okay, A plus and C minus. Let it be a strong electrolyte. A strong electrolyte. And when this strong electrolyte, it is added to a solution of weak electrolyte. Say AB is a weak electrolyte. Again A plus and B minus. See here, you can see in both these electrolytes, in both the strong and this weak electrolyte, we can see one ion is in common, isn't it? Which is that ion? It is A plus, isn't it? A plus is the ion in common in both strong and weak electrolyte, isn't it? So what happens is that to this weak electrolyte, a strong electrolyte is added. What happens? The dissociation of the weak electrolyte will be suppressed due to the presence of the common ion A plus. Are you clear? Suppose to this weak electrolyte solution or weak electrolytic solution, a strong electrolyte AC is added. So what happens is that the dissociation of the weak electrolyte, that is dissociation of weak electrolyte means it will be ionizing as A plus and B minus. Dissociation or ionization, the words are synonyms. Dissociation or ionization. So the dissociation of the weak electrolyte will be suppressed due to the presence of the common ion A plus. Okay, so this phenomenon, it is called as the common ion effect. Okay, so I will be writing the definition of this common ion effect. So common ion effect, it can be defined as the suppression of the dissociation of the weak electrolyte. Suppression of the dissociation of the weak electrolyte. Suppression of the dissociation of the weak electrolyte by the addition of a strong electrolyte. By the addition of a strong electrolyte having an ion in common. Having an ion in common. So this is the definition for common ion effect. That is the suppression of the dissociation of the weak electrolyte. So to this weak electrolyte, a strong electrolyte is added. So there will be a common ion A plus. So if a common ion is present, what happens? The dissociation of the weak electrolyte will be suppressed. Okay, let us go through one of the example for this phenomenon. Say for example, acetic acid. See, acetic acid, it is a weak electrolyte, or it is a weak acid. Okay, acetic acid is a weak acid, and in water what happens? This acetic acid, it will be ionizing, or it will be dissociating as CH3 COO minus plus H plus. Acetic acid will be ionizing as CH3 COO minus plus H plus, and to this weak electrolyte, so this is a weak electrolyte, and to this weak electrolyte I am adding, say, a strong electrolyte HCl. Okay, HCl is a strong electrolyte. So I am adding this strong electrolyte to this weak electrolytic solution. So HCl will be ionizing as H plus and Cl minus. Okay, so what is the ion in common? H plus is the ion in common, isn't it? H plus is common in both cases. So what happens? Due to the addition of the strong electrolyte HCl to this weak electrolyte acetic acid, what happens? The dissociation of acetic acid will be suppressed. That means, see here in this reaction, the forward reaction is the dissociation, isn't it? Forward reaction means it will be CH3COO minus plus H plus. And the backward reaction means it is the unionization of the undissociation of acetic acid, isn't it? So due to the presence of this common ion H plus, what happens? The dissociation of this particular electrolyte will be suppressed. That means the equilibrium will be shifting to backward. Okay, or the dissociation of acetic acid will be suppressed, or in solution there will be acetic acid. Okay, so this is the phenomenon called as common ion effect. So here we are taking a weak electrolyte, acetic acid, and to this weak electrolyte I am adding HCl, and HCl will be completely ionized as H plus and Cl minus. The ion which is common in both the electrolyte is H plus. So due to the presence of this H plus ions, or due to the presence of this common ion, what happens? The dissociation of the weak electrolyte will be suppressed, or the equilibrium will be shifting towards the backside. Okay. Backside means it is the undissociation of acetic acid. Forward reaction is the dissociation of acetic acid. Okay, so this is the phenomenon called as common ion effect. Let us write one more example. So this is example 1 and this is example 2. Say for example ammonium hydroxide. Again ammonium hydroxide, it is a weak electrolyte. So it will be ionizing as NH4 plus OH minus. Isn't it? So to this solution I am adding a strong electrolyte ammonium chloride. Okay, ammonium hydroxide is a weak electrolyte and ammonium chloride is a strong electrolyte. So ammonium chloride NH4 plus, it will be dissociating as NH4 plus and Cl minus. So this is the weak electrolyte. So you have to consider here the forward reaction as well as the backward reaction. Forward reaction, it is the dissociation of ammonium hydroxide, and the backward reaction, it is the undissociation of the ammonium hydroxide. Okay. So here, which is the ion in common? The ion which is common is ammonium ion, isn't it? So we are adding a strong electrolyte to this weak electrolytic solution. So what happens? Again, the suppression of the dissociation of ammonium hydroxide takes place. That means the equilibrium will be shifting towards the back side. Okay. So suppression of the dissociation of the weak electrolyte, that is the ammonium hydroxide will remain undissociated due to the presence of NH4 plus. Okay. Ammonium hydroxide will remain undissociated due to the presence of which ion? Due to the presence of NH4 plus ion. Okay. So here ammonium ion is the common ion present. So this is the phenomenon called as common ion effect, and this phenomenon, it is very, very important. It will be asked in all your university examinations in till this year. It is asked for every university examinations. Okay. So it is very, very important. You should not skip these portions. Okay. So next, going on to the next phenomenon, that is the solubility product. Solubility product. See here, while considering the solubility product, you have to consider the case of a sparingly soluble salt. A sparingly soluble salt means it is a partially soluble salt, or it will be partially. Normally we are using the solvent as water, isn't it? Water is the universal solvent. So here we are using a sparingly soluble salt or a partially soluble salt. It will not be completely soluble in water. So example for a sparingly soluble salt is AgCl, silver chloride. Okay, so when dissolving, while dissolved in water, this AgCl, when dissolved in water, what happens? Only a very small portion will be dissolving. The other portion will remain undissolved. Okay, that means we will be having almost a saturated solution. Okay, it will not be dissolving so fast. So at a particular temperature, it can be considered as a saturated solution at a particular temperature. Okay. So during this dissociation of this sparingly soluble salt AgCl, we can write the equation as AgCl will be ionizing as Ag plus plus Cl minus. Okay, so you have to consider the equilibrium constant. You might have studied to write the equilibrium constant. So K, it is the equilibrium constant. K is the equilibrium constant. So K is equal to concentration of, how you write, concentration of Ag plus into concentration of Cl minus divided by concentration of AgCl. Okay, so at a particular temperature, what happens? This concentration of AgCl, say the temperature, let it be 27 degrees Celsius. So at this particular temperature, what happens? This concentration of AgCl will be a constant. Okay, concentration of AgCl will be a constant. So again we can cross multiply these two, K into a particular constant. That is, K is a constant. This concentration of AgCl is also a constant. A constant into a constant value means it will be another constant. Okay, constant into another constant gives another constant. So K into constant, that is equal to concentration of Ag plus into concentration of Cl minus. Okay, so again constant into constant, again it is another constant, so we can write it as Ksp, that is the solubility product. So the solubility product, it is denoted by this letter Ksp. Okay, Ksp is the solubility product. Ksp is the solubility product. So Ksp is equal to concentration of Ag plus into concentration of Cl minus. So this is how we can define solubility product. So solubility product, it is the product of the ionic concentrations. Product of the ionic concentration. See here the ions are Ag plus and Cl minus, isn't it? Product of the concentrations, product of the ionic concentrations in a saturated solution of an electrolyte. In a saturated solution of an electrolyte. See here we are taking the saturated solution of silver chloride, isn't it? In a saturated solution of an electrolyte at a given temperature. See here the temperature you have to mention. It is very, very important because say suppose if we are increasing the temperature, what happens to the solubility? That particular salt will be much more dissolving in that particular solvent, isn't it? If we are increasing the temperature, say if we are increasing the temperature to 10 degrees Celsius, say for example to 37 degrees Celsius, what happens? The solubility of AgCl or more amount of AgCl will be dissolved in water, isn't it? So there we will be having another solubility product. That means the total values will be changing, that is more number of ions will be dissociated, and therefore this value will be increasing, isn't it? So it is important to mention that at a given temperature, that term you have to mention. Okay, so if we are representing the solubility product means it will be at a particular temperature itself, let it be 27 or 37 like that. Okay, so we can define this solubility product as the product of the ionic concentrations in a saturated solution. Here we are taking the saturated solution of AgCl, that is no more amount of sodium chloride will be dissolved in that particular amount of water at that particular temperature, isn't it? So that is what is called as a saturated solution. Suppose we are taking 50 ml of water, and we will be we'll be putting some amount of salt in it, okay, and we are dissolving it. So at first what happens, the salt will be completely dissolved. Then we are increasing the amount of sodium chloride to that particular solution. Okay, we are increasing the amount, or we are adding much more amount of sodium chloride to that particular solution. And again, sometimes it will be dissolved. And a particular condition will be reached that no more amount of sodium chloride will not be dissolved. That is, some sodium chloride will remain undissolved at that particular temperature. Okay, no more, while we are adding more amount of sodium chloride to that 50 ml of water itself, that particular salt will not be dissolving, okay, at that particular temperature. So that is called as a saturated solution. No more amount of salt will not be dissolved in that particular amount of water, or in that 50 ml of water at that particular temperature. So that is a saturated solution. Suppose if we are increasing that temperature, again that amount, that salt will be dissolved. Okay, so that is what is called as a saturated solution. So here definition for solubility product is the product, it is the product of the ionic concentrations in a saturated solution of an electrolyte at a given temperature. Hope you are clear with this definition of solubility product. So in general, if we are representing sparingly soluble salt as BMAN, okay, this is a general expression for a sparingly soluble salt, and in equilibrium it will be a saturated solution, isn't it? So we can write the equilibrium equation like this. It will be M number of B, let this B be the cation, okay, and the valency of B will be N, isn't it? And the charge of A will be M, okay. The charge of B will be N plus, and the charge of A will be M minus. So M number of B, and the charge of B is N plus, okay, plus N number of A, and the charge of A is M minus, okay. So this will be this is the way you can write the equation for a sparingly soluble salt BMAN. Okay, so how you can write the solubility product? Solubility product is KSP. So KSP is equal to, it will be like this. It is the ionic product of the or the product of the ionic concentration. So here the ions are Bn plus and Am minus, isn't it? So Bn plus, and the number of Bn plus is M, isn't it? So raised to M into Am minus is another ion, the anion present, and the number of Am minus is N. Okay, likewise you have to write the solubility product. So here Bn plus is the cation and Am minus is the anion. So both one is the cation and another is the anion. So solubility product, while representing, it is the product of these two, isn't it? Bn plus and Am minus, and also the number of Bn plus is M, so it will be raised to M, and Am minus will be, the number of Am minus will be N, so raised to N. So this is how you have to represent the solubility product. Hope you are clear with this general expression for the solubility product, and I will be writing some more examples, then you will be clear about the solubility product. Okay, so the solubility product is also very important. It will be asked usually for your university examination. So while asking, you have to write the examples also if it is for a 4 mark. Okay, say for example, first equation, lead chloride PbCl2. What is the charge of Pb? Pb2 plus, isn't it? Pb2 plus, and Cl is Cl minus. So here how many chlorine? 2 Cl minus. Okay, the general equation will be PbCl2. It will be ionizing as Pb2 plus. Lead, it will be having Pb2 plus 2 Cl minus. Then you have to write the solubility product of this particular equation. So KSP, it will be the product of the ionic concentration. So here the ions are Pb2 plus and Cl minus. So Pb2 plus into Cl minus, and how many Cl minus are there? 2 Cl minus, isn't it? So it will be Cl minus raised to 2. Okay, Pb2 plus into Cl minus raised to 2. So this is the solubility product of lead chloride. Hope you are clear. Then the next equation, barium sulfate. Barium sulfate, it will be ionizing as barium, the charge will be Ba2 plus, and SO4, the charge will be SO4 2 minus. Okay, so what about the solubility product? Ksp is equal to barium 2 plus, concentration of Ba2 plus into SO4 2 minus. Here the ions are 1, isn't it? Each one will be having one number, so it will be Ba2 plus into SO4 2 minus. That only there. Okay, then the next equation, hope you are written. Next equation, Ag2CrO4. Ag2CrO4. What is the charge of Ag? It's Ag plus, isn't it? Ag plus, how many Ag? 2 Ag plus CrO4 chromate ion, it will be having 2 minus. Okay, so 2 Ag plus, the equation will be 2 Ag plus CrO4 2 minus. Then again the solubility product Ksp is equal to, how will you write? Product of the ionic concentration. So Ag plus the whole square, 2 Ag plus are there, so it will be square into CrO4 2 minus. So this is the solubility product of silver chromate, Ksp. Then the next equation, that is calcium fluoride. Calcium fluoride, it will be ionizing as Ca2 plus calcium, it will be having charge 2 positive, and fluorine will be having F minus, isn't it? So 2F minus. 2F minus. Therefore, the Ksp value will be equal to, Ksp is equal to concentration of Ca2 plus into F minus the whole square. Ksp is equal to Ca2 plus into F minus the whole raised to 2. So these are some of the examples for this solubility product. Hope you are clear with this solubility product, and there are 2 more points to be noted down. That is, say if the ionic product, there are 2 conditions are there. IP means ionic product. If the ionic product is greater than the solubility product, if the ionic product exceeds the solubility product, or if the ionic product is greater than the solubility product, then what happens? Precipitation occurs. So while we are doing a reaction, if the ionic product, if it is exceeding the solubility product, then only precipitation takes place. Okay, then the second condition, this is the first one. Then the second point to be noted down is that if the ionic product is equal to the solubility product, if the ionic product is equal to the solubility product, then saturation occurs. That means the condition is saturation. Saturation, I had mentioned you what do you mean by saturation. So these 2 points you have to note it down. The ionic product exceeds the solubility product, or if ionic product is greater than solubility product, precipitation takes place. Then if the ionic product is equal to solubility product, then saturation takes place. Okay. So in the next class, we will be discussing some of the applications of this common ion effect and solubility product in this qualitative analysis. Okay. So you have to be clear about this common ion effect and solubility product. Okay. Thank you and have a nice day.